All right, good morning, folks, and welcome back to the Fridaily Writing Pep Talk. Today, I'm going to be chatting with Brandon Giles of LB Collaborations, who's asking about imposter syndrome, or as he puts it, why does my voice matter? Hi, Brandon. Can you say hello and tell us a little bit about LB Collaborations?
Absolutely. I'm Brandon Giles. I use pronouns he, him. And LB Collaborations is a combination of collaborations facilitation, which is my side of things, and my business partner is a project manager. The easy way to describe it all is I help people come up with some ideas and she helps bring them to life. The work that I get to do is really helping teams talk to each other or leaders figure out how to better listen to the people that they work with. So that's a little bit about me.
Cool, thank you. And you started to talk a little bit about this, but can you give us a short description of how you see what collaboration facilitation is?
Absolutely. The easiest way that probably most people identify with is just closing your eyes and thinking about a bad meeting or think about a meeting. Was it bad? Probably. And what were the things that made it that way? It was probably a little uncomfortable. It was people didn't necessarily know the agenda. There was nobody necessarily in charge. That one person went on too long. There are things that get in the way of people collaborating, and people think then that collaboration or working together on things can't work. What I do is I help remove that hurdle. So if there's a team that's trying to accomplish something, they may not typically work together. They may not be used to doing this type of activity or speaking in a collaborative way. So having techniques and tricks, activities, either sitting in the room in the moment and helping, or like I said, working with the leaders or the teams in general to help people understand that communication is possible. We just got to maybe do things a little bit differently than we have before.
Perfect. That was really, really helpful. And I want to ground today's conversation in a little bit of context. You all know my name is MJ Halberstadt. I'm a writing coach with Find the Words. And the goal of this pep talk is to talk about this theme that Brandon has brought up of imposter syndrome. And in Brandon's case, he's in the midst of developing case studies, which are going to capture some of his previous work experiences. And we're trying to figure out how to do that in a way that will speak to the potential of what his company is going to be able to do in the future, because the company is entering a new phase. He's trying to broach a different market, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the obstacles that are coming up. And then in the back half of today's conversation, I'm going to offer some lessons and tidbits from Brandon's needs and discoveries that we've made along the way that will hopefully be applicable to everybody else. So to begin with, I want to offer this warm-up question for folks. This is a fill in the blank kind of question. And the question is, why is it impossible for there to be a universal authority about blank? And you should fill in the blank with whatever your industry or field is. I'm going to invite you to write as many answers as you can in your own personal shorthand, which means that it doesn't need to make sense to anybody. Nobody's ever going to look at this list. Just write as many shorthand answers that you can to that question for yourself. I'll give you 60 seconds and then we'll come back. Okay, wrap up your last thoughts. And let's come back, please. Brandon, what came up for you as you tried to answer that question?
I the easiest thing is that it involves humans. And from what I can deduce, humans have subtle variations and differences and needs that aren't universal in and of themselves. Human-centered thinking is a big part of what I do. But at the end of the day, like you can't have one single thing for that. It just puts some guardrails on about how things could maybe be.
Hmm.
But yeah, there is no one answer when humans are involved.
I am, that's like a perfect segue to the point that I'm hoping to make here, which is that your field in particular is incredibly subjective. And so this theme of imposter syndrome tends to come up because we sometimes put a pressure on ourselves to be the authority, the expert on something, when there really is no such thing as an objective authority on something like this. And often the best thing that we can do is learn to embrace the things that make our reason for working in a field unique or distinct or niche in some way. I know that's true for you, Brandon, but can you talk a little bit about what experiences inform your reason for doing this work and how you approach it?
Yeah, I mean, I tell stories to get my point across, which means rambling. I apologize. But honestly, as I was thinking about that answer of humans are different and need different things, I was taken back to I was a Starbucks partner for 16 years, working in stores, working in the corporate office as an educator, lots of different things. But one of the biggest lessons I learned was that I can't get through to everybody. There were some baristas that I had that were a pain in my side that transferred to another store and are now store managers. Like we just didn't get along. We didn't communicate the same way. And I think that there are so many things from that past of working with people in a place that cared, or at least presented ways to care about people. But also being around customers that often, like being around people who were having individual conflict, personal conflicts in that moment. It's not a secret that the bartender does some therapy. So is the barista. There's been a lot of people around talking about different things, and I've just found myself in a really great spot to be able to hear from them and learn from those moments and then share that with other people.
And your unique experiences haven't just informed how you're approaching the work, they're also informing the choices that you're making today and the intentions that you're putting out there as LB Collaborations enters a new phase. So can you talk a little bit about who it is that that you've identified who it is that you want to help next? Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean the sub mission. This is not the simple. This is not the end all be all. But for LB Collaborations, it's we want to help good people do good things that make things better for everybody. And so that is the goal. There's a little bit of guardrails around that and some rules there, but generally speaking, there are middle level managers who have never been trained on how to lead their teams that now rely on them that I think exist in a very unique spot to have someone come in and help out a little bit. Whether it is run a team building activity because they're a new manager, they need to get to know each other, or a strategy session to figure out what's actually going to be happening. That person who just needs a little bit of help in that moment to understand what their job is. That I think is the strongest pull right now.
Totally. And I also want to give that a little bit of like the treatment of granularity because we've also talked a little bit about company size
Yes.
and age in company, which I think is also an important variable here. Can you remind me um, where
There
you
is
landed
the
on that?
subtle business decision that I've made, somewhat unilateral. My business partner is here. Sorry, Lacey. I made the unilateral decision that we should probably work for people that can pay us. So a decent
Huh.
sized company, a company that has the means, and actually I think the language I've begun to use is has the budget. Convincing people that this is a need is not a thing that's fun. If they've already budgeted for it, they know that the need is there. But in terms of the were you saying the age of the company
Um,
or the time in the company?
Actually,
I think I
either
feel
or
like I
both.
said what we had talked about before was just middle level managers, people who aren't necessarily at the top, but with the things I do near the top works well.
Mhm.
But the people who are or have a team under them and just don't know what to do.
Yeah. So I'm going to say that the better you are able to envision who your ideal buyer is, and I'm just going to use the term ideal buyer because it's a common term that I think is going to be a helpful shorthand for us. The more you're going to be able to grasp how it is that you're able to help them, and specifically how you uniquely can help them, what it is that you are bringing to the table. I hate that I'm about to recommend a podcast episode, but my thinking on this theme was really calcified by listening to a podcast called The Business of Authority, hosted by Jonathan Stark and Rochelle Moulton. And in the episode titled Be a Contributor, Not a Guru, they're talking about a couple different ways to approach business. Jonathan Stark says, if you know way more about your area of expertise than your ideal buyer, then as far as they're concerned, you are an expert. So during one of the conversations where we were priming today's chat, Brandon mentioned that he is not a certified collaboration facilitator. And I didn't even know that there was such a thing as a
Mhm.
certificate to do that. And I doubt if any of the folks who are trying to get their community, their team to work more successfully together, they probably aren't aware about that either. Rochelle Moulton says, is the guy who does my WordPress site the world's expert on WordPress? I doubt it, but I don't care because he gets whatever I need done. That whole episode is full of really lovely anecdotes where it just doesn't serve you to try and convince the world that you are the best at the thing that you're doing. One of the most attractive and magnetizing things that you can do is demonstrate to your ideal buyer that you're paying attention to them. That is the sexiest thing, is to notice what their pain points are and how the skill that you bring to the table can help them get where they're going. I want to offer this visual metaphor that just picture a doorway and there's an inside and an outside. And right now, your ideal buyer is outside of the party and they don't have, in Brandon's case, collaboration facilitation. And you are letting people in the door with the thing that only you can do into the space of what collaboration facilitation can help your ideal buyer to do. So, Brandon, I imagine that you have a sense of what a company of 10 to 12 people is going to be able to do better as a result of being able to collaborate more effectively. How would you describe what that looks like?
I apologize. Can you repeat the question? I saw another person enter the room with my name.
I keep seeing that. It's also distracting me.
I think it's because I shared this link, so it must be coming through this way.
Okay.
Could you repeat the question, please?
The question is, when you think of your ideal buyer and the middle manager in a company of 10 to 12 people, what is facilitated collaboration going to help them to achieve?
What's really hard is that it's going to help them achieve things that they may have never actually seen before.
Mm,
Teamwork, uh, happiness at work, effective projects that run on or under budget, projects that actually achieve the goal that they set out to do, accountability for their teams. That's probably one of the biggest things, is leaders just saying a thing and expecting it to happen and never bringing it up again, and it never does.
mm.
Sometimes it takes a little bit of follow-up. So I think actually achieving some of the targets, both the tangible company related targets, but also the human ones that are becoming more and more apparent these days. I think that's a really big one.
I just want to flag here that even though you're right, it is a hard thing to describe, you have not described the tools or instruments of collaboration facilitation. For example, you use Miro boards to get everyone's ideas on the table with the Post-its, and you have your metaphor about balloons. That's not the thing that you're selling here, even though it's a very successful thing that I've seen in action that works really, really well. That's not the thing that you're trying to entice people with. That's the door that folks have to pass through in order to get to the other side of a thing that they may not even know that they want, but does align with their goals as a member of a team, both as an individual member of the team and on behalf of the team and their overall goals. I want to offer, first of all, the one thing that everyone should write down today, which is that you don't have to prove that you're the best if you illustrate you're paying attention to your audience's specific needs, which is just another way of restating what I've been saying here. Screen grab that. And here's a homework assignment that I hope will make better use of that door metaphor. Write a list of your client's pain points on one side of your sheet. And on the other side of the sheet, write a list of things that your product or service will help them to do. And Brandon, you've just done that beautifully, and I imagine that other folks will have different answers. And then spend some time connecting the dots between the pain points and the things that your service can help them to do when you are able to make connections for them. Label each of them with the way that you uniquely can help them, and then you'll notice that all of those lines are going through the metaphorical door here. And those are the stronger arguments to make than I'm the best collaboration facilitator of all time. I'm the best regenerative designer of all time, whatever it happens to be. Brandon, can you I want to bring this home. Do you have any invitations to the team about how they can engage with LB collaborations?
Absolutely. There is a website that exists. You can scroll all down, read the words that are there and scroll to the bottom and contact me through there. You can find me and Lacey on LinkedIn. But right now there's a lot of talking about how to find these ways to help out with folks. So please, if you yourself need some collaboration support or know somebody who does, I'd love to have some conversations.
And just as like one additional plug, one of my favorite things about the way that Brandon works is that it is incredibly, incredibly pliable, and his principles work whether you are a company of one or a company of many, many, many people. So it's an incredibly pliable skill set that Brandon brings to the table. As for me, we've got another writing pep talk scheduled for next Friday. I'll be talking with a technical producer named Jenna Hodgins, who I met at a networking event a couple weeks ago. She's asking about visible vulnerability. She has very personal reasons for going into the business that she did. She wants to talk about that in some public-facing content, but wants to do that in a way that won't feel like oversharing. And so I want to help her connect the dots between her personal convictions and her politics in a way that is going to actually serve the way that she shares and talks about her company. So that'll be same time next Friday, February 2nd. You can, well, you all know me, but for folks watching the recording, you can find me at findthewordwithmj.com or at the same credentials on Instagram or at gmail.com. Find the Words provides drop-in appointments, collaborative copywriting, and ongoing persona coaching for founders, job seekers, and anybody with great ideas. Thank you all for joining, everybody, and enjoy your weekend.